Welcome to Fans Without Borders. My name is Ray.
And I'm Brent.
All right, no BS. We really did one thing this week, and it was yesterday. So, you know what? We're just going to jump right into it. And
Yes.
just let everyone know this is a Squadcast media show. So that's DC Film Squadcast, DC Comics Squadcast, Marvel Squadcast, and also DC TV Squadcast. I should mention who hosts those shows. Tim and Scott host DC Film Squadcast. Jordan and Chris host DC Comics Squadcast. Brent, you host Marvel Squadcast with Brock.
Yep.
And I am hosting DC TV Squadcast, which for all of this year so far has been with Scott. That is changing. We dropped our most recent episode, which was we finished off the season finales for Doom Patrol and Stargirl. So I'm moving forward with another plan for DC TV that I hope everybody's going to dig. We'll see how that goes. More details to come on that within the next week or so. But that is what's going on NetScore. So yeah, those are all the shows in the Squadcast Media Network.
Yeah, and of course we want to give a special thank you to those of you who support us over on Patreon. Normally we point to something audio related to tell you about, but instead I'm going to point out something video related to you. The other night, you, myself, Tim, and Scott were all on for a little while to talk about our first reactions to the Ben Affleck news that came out, a couple days before FanDome. So, patrons, go to your Patreon page and you'll see a link to that video there available. So hopefully you like it. I know a few of you have checked it out already, but if you haven't, if you didn't realize it was there, since it doesn't show up in your podcast feed because it is, video component as well, go ahead and take a listen to that.
Yeah, but there is also audio stuff available, like Fans Without Borders Plus, which that is me and Scott, and we basically just turned it into the streaming show this year because we're talking about all streaming movies, and we were, I forget how this came up, but we were talking before about what we were going to do because I think our last review was The Tax Collector, but there's a bunch of VOD movies and other streaming movies coming up, there's Project Power, which released on Netflix, and then Bill and Ted Face the Music is out this week on VOD, so we were talking about that, and then also we're both really excited for Enola Holmes on Netflix, so we're probably going to be posting some Patreon episodes of Fans Without Borders Plus for those, plus there's the movie Squadcast episodes we have recorded through The Rocketeer.
Yes.
We did do The Rocketeer review, so I think Constantine and The Rocketeer still need to be posted. We're in a bit of a sweet spot right now, Brent. We've got some good ones.
There's some good ones coming up.
Real good ones. But yeah, so there's that, plus a ton of other content available on Patreon as well. So hope that you're all enjoying it, patrons. And as always, we cannot thank you enough for your support to the Squadcast Media Network. All right, enough of all that. Let's get into this seriously. We got to talk about this. This is just Brent.
Seismic.
Brent, I do feel like between the two of us, I want to hear your high-level thoughts on DC FanDome first. And the reason is because I think it's fair, over the course of us doing this show, I think our audience and a lot of people, I think you have caught, let's be honest, you have caught some flack with respect to your allegiances.
That's true.
Between DC and Marvel.
People do tend to misunderstand that. They think I don't like DC, or I only like DC if it's on the CW, and that could not be further from the truth.
So, lead us in with your high-level thoughts about DC FanDome yesterday.
So, I have been really hyped for DC FanDome. I made arrangements for my kids to go to the in-laws house for the day, and I told my wife I'm basically unavailable from noon my time until 8 o'clock, and that's pretty much what happened. And honestly, it delivered. They did a fantastic job with it. The panels had all this different variety. The Shazam panel was nothing like the Black Adam panel, was nothing like the Snyder Cut panel or the Batman panel. They were all so different. And it was a lot of fun to watch. And I got to say, the two of us were on with Tim and Scott and Jordan, and we pretty much spent the whole day just watching it. And, at one point we're like, okay, we're all going to take a break and go grab dinner or whatever, meet back for this panel at this time. And somebody pointed out, it's like we're at a real con, in-person one.
That's literally what Tim said. We'll meet
Yes.
back here in 30. And I was like, we're at the con. It's like we're
It
there.
was awesome. I loved it. I had so much fun. And then on top of that, during those times when we were, I think the longest break we were away was an hour, I hopped on YouTube with the Geekverse guys, the guys over from the Geekverse Alliance, and I got to talk with them. And then just general talking with people on Twitter, like everybody was just basking in the glow of this collective celebration of DC and DC Comics and movies and TV shows. And they nailed it. They set the bar for a virtual convention. This is now the floor. If you're going to do a virtual convention, you got to match this, or why are you even bothering?
Yeah, I could not agree more. And you always are concerned about whether or not something like this is going to match the hype and anticipation. There was buildup. There was huge buildup for this, and it wasn't just from Warner Media and from DC Comics. It was also our own hype, building ourselves up. Like, okay, what are our expectations for this? What do we think they're going to do? How do we think this is going to play out? And we had talked about this before about, seeing what Comic-Con at Home did a month ago and seeing what Justice Con did on a fan level. And we both had said, okay, they need to take some notes, from knowing what not to do with a lot of the mistakes that we felt Comic-Con at Home made, and incorporating some of the stuff that Justice Con actually did in order to really make a unique experience. And I don't know that AT&T took notes from either one of them, but it feels like a lot of the problems that we saw from Comic-Con at Home were eliminated. And just their approach to this, like you said, the variety of the panels, and not only the variety of the panels, but the fact that it was continuous and the fact that it was engaging. There was always something there for the 8 hours of new content, because that's what this was for anybody that doesn't know. DC FanDome, 24-hour event. It's 8 hours of content that runs 3 times. So from 1 Eastern Time to 9 Eastern Time was all the new content, and then at 9 Eastern Time it started over again. And I did see a little of the... I kept the feed running, so I saw the Wonder Woman panel started over again.
Nice.
Because that was the very first one. But, like, in fact, I think at the time of us recording this, I think it's still going. It's, like, got maybe an hour and a half left.
Yeah.
But the idea is it was one continuous stream with, like, events built in. And that's... I hadn't thought of that, because my biggest concern with Comic-Con at Home was that they had taken out the spontaneity, they had taken out the live element, they'd taken out the engaging element from it, and this treated that element as though this was a show you were actually watching. Instead of it being a bunch of individual YouTube videos that you could click on a link, it was one continuous show that, it felt like it was just a programming that had breaks and had, like, there was trivia, and there were, little pieces, like there were the points in between. I don't know if you noticed where they were like asking different actors questions.
Yes.
Like from different, and it was from all over. It wasn't just from movies. It was from movies. It was from TV. It was from animated. It was an incredible event, an incredible presentation. You're absolutely right. This is the bar.
Yep.
You cannot go lower than this. DC has put everyone on notice. When everybody copies this, and they will, because this is the start of this.
They better.
I have to believe, Brent, that Marvel fans today are screaming for this. They want this.
They should be. I want this.
Right. I mean, can't you look at what DC did yesterday, and imagine that with whatever they're going to do, whatever the phase 4 and next plans are for the MCU, whatever they're going to do with the comics, whatever they're going to do with the shows like WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and they need to do this. They need to do this. So when this happens, when they do it, this is your bar. You start from here and you go up, or you stay level. Period.
Yeah, what Comic-Con at Home did, they were at a disadvantage. They didn't have the same time that DC FanDome had for this. But at this point, Comic-Con at Home's, their content, their information I was fine with. It was their production values that, at this point, I'm sorry, to me is unacceptable. This is now, like I said, this is the floor. You need to match this. You need to match what DC FanDome did, or you need to improve upon it. And you know what? Marvel does it. They've never done one before. Okay, you better be in the ballpark because you've now seen what we did. If San Diego does this again next year, if they do something again like that, like Comic-Con at Home next year, now you guys don't have that excuse of it's your first go around. But as far as I'm concerned, DC's first round, I mean, home run. They nailed it. I could not have asked for a better day for the way it went. I didn't see technical problems. It's not like the feed cut out or whatever. It didn't glitch on people. I didn't see reports on Twitter of, oh, it's not working, the website crashed. None of that. Nothing like that. It was rock solid. And yeah, from AT&T, a telecommunications company, you would expect rock solid, but they delivered. It doesn't matter at the end of the day what advantages or disadvantages a company has. It just says, did you deliver or not? DC delivered with this yesterday. And I was so excited for it, and the whole day I was just having so much fun. I loved it.
Yeah, that was fun, and it's literally like the longest conversation the five of us have had. Right? We only when we were missing from our network is Chris. We wish he could have been there with us. He had other. Not everyone could get the time allotted for this Saturday. I think the rest of us got lucky with respect to that.
My face was sore at the end of the night last night from talking so much. It's like just such a long time. It's like I answer phones at work for tech support, and it's like I don't think I talked that much at work as what I did yesterday. So it was great. I mean, it was such a blast. We should get into it. We've got quite a bit here to go through, and we missed a couple panels here and there, but DC FanDome started off with where we're going to start off with Wonder Woman 1984. What did you think about that?
I loved the trailer. I loved the panel. It's all stuff we should have seen already. Oh. I couldn't get that out. I'm sorry. I couldn't get that out of my head. I even said it while we were watching it. It was like, oh, it should have already seen this. But you know what? I will say this. I mean, obviously it's not their fault.
Of course.
Outside forces absolutely have pushed them into an awful situation with respect to this movie's release date getting pushed 4 or 5 times. But I'll tell you, my hype for it has not died down. My hype for it is still there. I need to see this movie. We finally got the cheetah reveal. Even if it wasn't
great.
I thought it looked awesome. Even if it wasn't like a full-on profile shot like we got of some other new reveals that we'll talk about later, but to see her in action, especially that one scene where it looked like Wonder Woman grabbed her by her hair.
Yes.
And, threw her down.
That was my favorite part of the trailer, actually.
That was really good. And, quite honestly, I'm still excited to see what Kristen Wiig does with that character because it's such a departure from what we know her to be, being this comedic actress, Saturday Night Live, obviously, and, Bridesmaids and the Ghostbusters reboot, all that stuff. I want to see what she does with this, and I'm really excited to see that. I'm excited to see Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord. I'm excited to see... They still haven't told us how Steve Trevor's alive. We still don't know what the machinations for that are.
I don't want to know. So I'm glad that they're not doing that yet. Save some of the story stuff. I don't think they revealed too much, but I feel like if they said Steve is alive because of this, I feel like that would have been too much. I think I have one nitpick about this panel, and that was them insisting on, we can't wait for you to see it at the cinema, in theaters. And I'm like, I just feel like they should have left that phrasing off because I don't think today is the time to be saying you can only get to go see it in the theaters. I think they should have just said, we can't wait for you to see it. Is it a nitpick? Probably, but I just think it's a bad message to be giving right now. And so I do wish that they were going to do basically what is happening with Mulan on Disney Plus. There's still time for that to happen. The movie's slated currently for October. So there's time for that to happen, or there's time just to maybe theaters will be more viable. I know New Mutants is coming out, I think, next week, and I'm not going to go see it in theaters.
I think it's this week.
Is it? Okay.
I think it's yeah. Well, and
it's soon. It's soon.
To that point, I live in Michigan. No theaters are going to be open in my area for me to even see New Mutants if I wanted to. You have to take that into account as well. We don't know what the landscape is going to hold in October. I could still be in a scenario where even if I wanted to see Wonder Woman 1984, which I wouldn't because I've made it publicly clear that only thing getting me back into a theater right now is a vaccine. But even if I had the option I may not have that option. Is what I'm saying. Is that theaters may still be closed in Michigan, where I'm at in October. We don't know. So
Wonder Woman, it's going to be a test for me. Like New Mutants, it's like I think the last New Mutants trailer looked good. I want to see it. I'm not going to see it in theaters right now. Same thing with Tenet. The trailers look really good. I'm really interested in seeing that movie. I'm not going to go see it in theaters right now. My theater is actually open now, and they're doing some kind of celebration thing, basically just to get people in the door. 15-cent tickets.
15-cent
tickets.
That's an anniversary. It's a one-day thing. It's an anniversary thing. Yeah,
and it's like even with that, it's like no, I'm having no part of it. I'm not interested at all. So October. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I don't go opening night. Maybe I look at the tickets. And I look at the tickets an hour, 30 minutes before showtime. I'm like, okay, there's only like 2 other people. I'm just gonna take a seat on the other side of the room. Maybe I'll consider that. But like normally it'd be like, oh, opening night. I'm dead center. IMAX. I want the whole thing. Hopefully in a crowd of people. I don't want any of that. So that's really my only nitpick about the Wonder panel. I love seeing that Linda Carter showed up and you could
that was so good.
How genuine the cast was at seeing her, and
how genuine she was
giving it up to her. It's like her and Gal Gadot. It's like seeing the two of them talk to each other was awesome. The trailer I thought was excellent. I mentioned the cheetah part was my favorite part of the trailer. The ending bit with Chris Pine I thought was hysterical with the parachute pants. That has made me laugh every time I watch the trailer.
I like the radar. I like the radar bit too.
The radar joke was good.
Are they gonna shoot at us?
the way they were cutting back and forth between like young Diana and current, or what for the movie is current Diana, as she's like doing similar moves or whatever. I thought that was really well edited. I know I said like that was the movie that I didn't need more footage for last week, and that's true. I still feel that way, but I still loved what we got. So Wonder Woman, great way to start the day off.
Yeah, and that was a perfect kickoff panel. Now, the cool thing that we ran into with this, I think, was we were really, when we made our schedules like a week ago, and our priorities were any of the movie announcements, right, any of the movie panels. We got some nice in-between panels, and the first one, I will go ahead and say that the best in-between movie announcement panel that we got was the one after Wonder Woman 1984, which was Multiverse 101. And this was a panel.
There was a panel before that, I think.
Which one was it?
The Gotham Knights one? Wasn't that before Multiverse?
Oh, was that before? Was Gotham Knights before?
Maybe I wrote it down wrong. Now I'm questioning it.
No, I think you're right. No, you're right. It was. You know what? Because we didn't know what it was. Remember, it was the Warner Brothers Games Montreal announcement. That was all they knew. All they told us. We didn't know what it was. You're absolutely right. And I forgot. We don't normally talk video games on this show. We're totally talking video games today. And we're going to start with Gotham Knights. That was the reveal of, and that I guess is a non-movie panel as well. But Gotham Knights, multiplayer co-op as the Bat Family.
The Bat Family, not the Batman. I love that. You've got a Batman game in the Batman world. But you know what? I'm going to be playing as Nightwing. I'm going to be playing as Tim Drake. Batgirl, Red Hood. That's who I'm playing as. It's like, I'm not playing as Batman. Whatever. He may show up at some point, but I will be picking Robin and Nightwing every chance I get. And it's only 2-player co-op, but I love that it's co-op because, I'd already planned on getting a PS5. And so it's like, I'm going to already have the system. I'm getting this game. And anyone else out there is getting this game, fine, let's play. I'm so excited to play this co-op. It looked fantastic. The opening trailer that they gave us, I'm like, can we get an animated show in that style? It's like the animation for it was so good, and I would love to see more. Even just a limited series, a movie, fine. Just make it a movie, one of the DC movies, 90 minutes, 80 minutes, whatever. In that style, it was such a cool design, and for the first time, I liked that the Burnside version of Batgirl's costume. I've never been a big fan of that look. Here, I thought it looked great. Nightwing, Red Hood, Robin, they all looked great. There were a lot of us who were questioning which Robin is it, because without the mask on or the hood, he looked. Damian could be Tim Drake, probably Damian based on everything else. With the hood, with his cowl, he looked like Tim, and it's like. So many people that I talked to were really excited to find out, myself included, that it was actually Tim Drake. This game looks wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I have not played a Batman video game since Arkham City, and I've been out of the video game loop for 8 years, ever since I stopped working at GameStop.
That would be the last Batman game I've played as well. I need to go back through Asylum and City and then into Origins Night. I need to, but City is the last Batman game I've played.
I loved Asylum when that first came out. I remember when we were working at the store, we first got the demo for it, and we were just in awe at the combat, like the combat structure. And Arkham City was even better because I love open world sandbox games, and Arkham City was that. And then they did Arkham Origins, which I think that's a Montreal game. That's this studio.
Right. It's not Rocksteady like the other Arkham games.
Right, but then Rocksteady did Rocksteady do Arkham Knight?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
I don't quote me on that, but that is where I would put my money if I was betting on it.
Arkham Knight is the one where you can finally drive the Batmobile, and that was fantastic. But that was another one. So all those mechanics seem to be coming into this Gotham Knights game. I mean, that's how this gameplay footage started. Like, first we saw the cinematic trailer, which the premise of this is that Bruce Wayne is dead, and the Bat family must take up the mantle. Like, and they're in the Belfry. Like, that's where this starts. The gameplay starts with Batgirl on that cycle.
Yes.
And it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. If you get a chance, I don't know if they've posted this anywhere at all, but
yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible gameplay footage. And then it's her on the bike that you clearly can control, because I was waiting for the HUD to show up. I'm like, is this a cinematic or can we play through this? And as soon as the HUD showed up, I'm like, we can play through this. Here we go. All right. Yes. Vehicles. Yes. And then just the combat structure it's fantastic. And just the moves, all the brutality and everything is still there. All the different like detective modes and stuff. Yeah, I'm excited just because you're going to get to play a non-Spider-Man game on PlayStation.
You're right. I like for me, I know some people are upset of how long you have to wait for some of these movies, but it's like, or some of these games, it's like, I have the Avengers game here in a couple weeks, and then sometime next year, or later this year, the Spider-Man Miles Morales game. Okay, great. I will play those, and then I'll have a little break, and then I'll get Gotham Knights. And I'm like, yes, I will buy Gotham Knights and play it. And then there'll be another break before the next game, and we'll talk about that later. I just want to point out one thing that really made me question something, and I haven't been able to find confirmation. Early on, during the gameplay, it's on Batgirl. And up in the corner, it said something like Robin dropping in. And so what I want to know is, can a second player co-op drop in the middle of a mission, in the middle of the game? I mean, that would be different. I haven't really played games that way before, or at least not very many of them. So if it can, that's great. If it can't, no big deal. You just arrange to play with somebody and hit start at the same time or whatever. But if you can, I thought that was a real interesting note. But that was my confirmation that it is going to be co-op when I saw Robin was joining. And, oh my God, I'm so excited to play as Tim Drake.
I'm trying to think if I've played a drop-in co-op game. I don't know that I have, but I hope so.
I know locally Ultimate Alliance is. Locally you can add in a second player. I don't know about online though. I only played online Ultimate Alliance a couple times because I really only have one friend that plays it that I know of. But either way, Gotham Knights, I saw people hyping that game the entire day afterwards. Even after all the other movie footage we got, people were still excited for and talking about Gotham Knights, and I totally get it.
Yeah, no, that was that was a very pleasant surprise watching that gaming trailer, because again, it was a surprise announcement. We knew it was going to be a game, but we didn't know what it was going to be, and yes, very excited for that one. So yeah, you're right. That panel did come first, and then came the panel that the non-movie panel it was church. Seriously, that's how I put it. The Multiverse 101 panel with Jim Lee, Greg Berlanti, Walter Hamada. Who am I forgetting? Who was the fourth person in the panel?
The host whose name I'm forgetting, the moderator. It was those three and the moderator who's, oh my gosh, I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who moderated it. But
I don't either.
Regardless,
yeah.
I mean, you've got the movie guy, the TV guy, and the guy that bridges the gap between them. The guy responsible for Ezra Miller coming to the Flash on TV. this is a panel I know that you and I were really excited for to see what they're doing, and I did think they were going to do more with the bleeding in directly to the next panel we'll talk about. But regardless, I mean, they basically, how many times have we talked about like Ted Kord, right? Ted Kord can't be on Arrow, so because they're going to use him in possibly a movie, so let's have Ray Palmer instead. Suicide Squad's getting kicked off of Arrow. Deathstroke is getting kicked off to Arrow. Oh, we'll let him come back just a little bit, and then he's kicked off again. It sounds to me like no more of that. I mean, how many Batman are we getting in the next couple of years? We've got...
I've lost count.
I mean, so many Batmans in the movies and on HBO Max, and even probably in the Batwoman show, we're going to at least get a Bruce Wayne version. Even if it is Tommy Elliott, it's still going to be a character playing the Bruce Wayne model. And so it's like they're finally doing what we wanted. I know we've talked about this before. It's like Marvel's strength is the shared universe, all connected. Like the movies, not Jeff Loeb stuff. It's all connected in the movies. Like that is their strength. DC's strength has always been its multiverse. Like I mean, in the comics, in the comics, they have popularized their Elseworlds, the multiverse. You ask people, what's your favorite arcs? So many people will tell you Superman Red Son or All-Star Superman or The Dark Knight Returns, right? They pick all these different Elseworlds versions of the characters, and so now DC is finally going to lean into that and be like, hey, we can have a Flash in the movie and on the TV show. We can have a Batman in this movie and a Batman in that. And no, let's just throw another Batman into one of the movies, just all the Batmans. And I'm so happy that they finally said that that's what they're doing. So yeah, sure, maybe there will be times when for one reason or another a character is off limits. But in general, it's not like an automatic no. And that's what I'm happy about.
Happy about that, and also, to hear them say it, right? And Jim Lee's been the most vocal person in the last number of months with respect to this whole. From the start of DC Universe, which I think may have been the one thing we didn't get any further details about yesterday, but to hear Berlanti say it, and most importantly, to hear Walter Hamada say it. One of the things that's been amazing about DC's transformation, even through this year, is just the complete 180 that they've done with respect to their public relations and with respect to their marketing. That used to be a consistent complaint from so many fans about how they're not controlling the narrative. Why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? We heard answers yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we heard answers from Jim Lee, we heard answers from Greg Berlanti, we heard answers from Walter Hamada. When Walter Hamada said that the old ways were they were in a really weird place with the old ways, I was like, I've never heard him say this. This leads me to believe he didn't like the way they were doing things.
Yes, I came to that same conclusion. He didn't like it. AT&T didn't like it. AT&T has empowered him to make the changes necessary and empowered Jim Lee to make the changes necessary so they can go to where we, the fans, have wanted them to go to for years.
And they're all on the same page. And that's really the most important thing, is the synergy. And that's the key word for everything that we saw yesterday, synergy. There were no walls yesterday whatsoever. And it started with this Multiverse 101 panel, which I'm glad it was earlier in the day, because it really did set the tone for the rest of what we saw the rest of the day, because they went in all directions. And this panel was the brass basically confirming, this is what we're doing. We're going in all directions. All of it is valid. You have choices to make. You do not have to. We're not going to make you do homework. If you want this version of the character, you can have this version of the character. If you want that version of the story, if you want to see this, you want to see that, all different universes. I think they even did one of them, I forget if it was in this panel, but somebody definitively declared that Joker is in its own world.
It was this one.
Yeah.
Hamada mentioned it. Because he basically just said, if you have an idea that doesn't fit in our main continuity, okay, let's talk. And that's what they did with the Joker. And, obviously Joker was a huge success for them and probably helped drive home that point of we can have more than one, because it hadn't been that long since we had a Joker. And now we have a new Batman coming with Robert Pattinson. It's probably not going to be that long before another new Joker, but it's that's no longer a problem. That's okay.
Yeah, and you and I have both said for a while that when it comes to the general audience and like the whole confusion thing, general audience doesn't care. If the general audience could watch that Joker movie make $1 billion last year and not be confused about whether or not it took place, is this a prequel to Suicide Squad, or is he going to run into Batfleck or Battinson or anything like that? The general audience parsed it just fine, and they just want to enjoy the film, and they just want to see great performances from whoever is playing the character. Right. That's all they care about. The whole connectivity and continuity, I mean, yes, that can be nice, but when you have this wealth of characters and when you've made your entire existence on these Elseworld tales and on doing the multiverse approach, you need to take advantage of that. And it is very refreshing that they are finally doing that. And to be honest with you, Brent, even though they didn't reference a whole lot in the next panel that we're about to talk about, it was still the perfect panel to lead into the next one that we're going to talk about.
It was. So let's get into that. The next one was the Flash movie panel, the movie panel for the Flash. And I will tell you, no panel gave me a bigger smile than this panel. And for starters, I thought Ezra Miller's flashbacks were hilarious. You know, I heard one or two people was like, I could have done without that. And I'm like, no, I thought they were hilarious. Now, they didn't give us a ton of story. They didn't give us some announcements that we need to address here in a moment. But that came out earlier in the week, some official confirmation we got on a couple people, a couple little names who are going to appear in this movie. You know, you've never heard of them, but we'll tell you who they are. But what they did give us was confirmation that this Barry is getting a new suit. And I'm so excited for it. Oh my gosh. And on top of that, the concept art for it. So yeah, it's concept art. It'll change a little bit, but it's beautiful artwork. And the first one they show is just a shot of him. And I'm like, I already love it. I can see enough. It's there. It's great. And then they show us another piece. And it's a little bit better view of him. It's actually my Twitter profile right now because I loved it so much. And it's just this beautiful artwork. But who's standing behind him but Batman? Batman is standing behind him. And so it's like, great. So now we've got concept art of him and Batman, but it's not just any Batman. It's the Michael Keaton Batman. What an awesome piece of work. And yeah, this week they confirmed, like, full on, Michael Keaton's part of it. He's going to be a part of this movie. But Ray, he's not the only one in this movie. And we haven't gotten to talk about this yet because this happened after we recorded last week. I know you're excited. Who else? Who else is going to be in this one?
If you can't see, well, I'm doing this for the video people. I'm wearing a Batfleck I'm getting tongue twisted here. A Batfleck logo shirt. Batfleck is coming. He's returning. Yes, Ben Affleck is going to be in the Flash movie with Ezra Miller's Flash and Michael Keaton's Batman from Batman '89. Are you serious?
Yeah, so the Snyder Cut will not be his last appearance as Batman. Now, they did say it's a cameo. They kind of implied it's a way for him to send off the character. But at this point, between Ezra being on the show, Ben Affleck's coming back, the Snyder Cut got greenlit, I personally will not vote. Like, I would not bet on anything being off the table for the future. So if the rest of the Snyder Cut's a good experience for him, and if the Flash movie's a good experience for him, they're on board. And apparently, according to what I read, I want to say this was Deadline or Variety, I don't remember which, I'm sorry, but one of them basically said that Affleck got the script one week, and then the next week, he signed on. So he liked it that much. He liked what he was hearing that much. Hopefully he's going to have a better experience. And I know people are thinking, but Brent, you don't like BVS. Why would you be into this? I'm like, well, but I still liked him as Batman. It's like, Mike, the complaints that I had about, it's kind of like when people talk about Superman Returns. It's like, well, we like Brandon Routh as Superman. That's not why the movie doesn't work for people. The reasons that BVS didn't work for me, they're not actually Ben Affleck. Like, it's not his fault. It's not on him. So yeah, I am curious to see what they're going to do with him in another movie. I'll admit it. I'm curious what another director is going to do with him. And on top of that, I'm really, really want to see him suited up with Michael Keaton suited up. You give us both. Oh my gosh. If they don't give just one little glimpse, even if it's not in the movie, fine. If it doesn't fit the narrative, fine. I want a behind the scenes shot of the two of them in costume together, or it is a colossal missed opportunity.
That's a fangasm right there. Seriously, that's nerdvana that you're talking about right there. You know what? You texted me an analogy a couple days ago that I want to bring up here because I actually thought it was the perfect analogy.
I had never thought of it before the last week.
You told me that how you feel about Man of Steel and BVS is very similar to how I feel about Guardians 1 and Guardians 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. For people that don't know, I very much enjoy Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. I don't like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And Brent, yes. Honestly, yes. Man of Steel, Brent likes Man of Steel, thoroughly enjoys it, doesn't care for BVS.
Yep.
And it is a similar situation where you're right, it's not the characters. Like, I don't necessarily have anything against, clearly I don't have anything against Star-Lord or Gamora or even Drax or Rocket or anything like that, because I like them in the other movies. I just didn't care for where they took the story and the tone in the sequel. It's exactly the same thing you could say about BVS.
Right. So you may be annoyed with Rocket. You may like Rocket in Guardians 1. You may not like him in Guardians 2, but you could enjoy him in Infinity War. It is the exact same thing. So yes, we'll get there, but I am excited for the future movies, the future installments we have in front of us where Ben Affleck is going to be Batman. And so when I heard this news, I thought this is a good thing. Not only is it good for people like you and the rest of our network who have been a massive Batfleck fan, but it's good for movies, and it's just further evidence that Hamada and company understand what DC can do, the benefit that they have. And I was listening to the DC Alliance show on the Geekverse network, and Greg was talking about how Batman's the only person you could do this with, and I'm like, you know what? Cinematically, that's true, because cinematically, there's not that many characters who have several different versions available. Spider-Man, maybe they could do it, but the rights thing that's there, it's so up in the air. But there's nothing that stops Warner Brothers from doing this with Batman in a way that nobody else has this advantage, because we're still blessed to have all these great actors around. Obviously, not all of them, but so many great Batman actors are still around. I love that they're going to do that they're going to give us this. So yes, when people tell me that The Flash is their most anticipated DC movie, I'm not at all surprised. And I know people are like, oh, welcome to The Flash, guest starring Batman and this Batman and that Batman, and whose movie was this anymore? I don't have that concern. It's a team-up movie. That's fine. As long as it's still effectively from Barry's point of view, his story, others can come into it. I don't have a problem with that at all. I am super hyped for this.
If it does, and I'm saying this in terms of relative structure, if it does what Homecoming did, we're fine.
Yeah, and...
you know what I mean? So
sure, but you know what? Even if Keaton has a bigger role than that, say if they called Affleck's role a cameo, they called Keaton's substantial. So say it's substantial, I would maybe he's in it as much as. And I'm trying to think of another good. Hulk is in Ragnarok. That's fine. I would call Hulk's role substantial in Ragnarok, but it's still Thor's movie.
Right.
Give me that amount of screen time with Keaton. Yes, I'm on board with this, and they can still do that. And if you go back and you read Flashpoint again, or if you watch the Flashpoint Paradox movie, it's Barry's story, but he's not the only DC hero in it. It's not that they don't touch on the other DC characters. It's still Barry's story. I think this is great news. I think it's perfectly fitting with Flashpoint. Is it identical to the comic? Of course not. But it's not going to be. And really, do we want a literal comic book to TV translation or comic book to movie translation, or do we want some surprises in store for us? I'll take surprises.
I couldn't agree more. And having read Flashpoint, and now I actually did recently watch Flashpoint Paradox for the first time. Wow, that is not for kids.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's
for
good.
Kids at all.
It's good. It's a really good adaptation of the comic.
It really is. It is really, yeah.
Better than the Flashpoint that the TV show gave us. They should have just not used the word Flashpoint. Fine episodes, but a bad Flashpoint translation or adaptation.
Yeah.
It depends on how you're going to grade those.
But even with that, it's still like a multiverse thing, because the CW used it for their purposes, and it worked for the way they did it. Right? Yeah. And so now, and that's another, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's important to note that that's what this movie is going to do. This movie is not going to be a direct adaptation of Flashpoint. It's not. It's going to take elements, it's going to be a similar story, but it's going to go in a different direction. It's going to tell another version of this story, another incarnation. So no, we're probably not going to see the war between Atlantis and Themyscira. We're not going to see that. We're not even still 100% certain yet if we're going to see Cyborg. And it's still up in the air as to whether or not we'll see Thomas Wayne, because that is still technically on the table as well. But you're right.
It's totally fine if he suits up, if Thomas Wayne shows up and we see him again as Batman. Sign me up. I would love to see the Flashpoint Batman. Jeffrey Dean Morgan wants to do it. Bring him in.
Bring him in, Lauren Cohan in. That'd be fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. Get her take on the Joker. Yes, absolutely. Bring them both.
Yeah. Well, that watching Flashpoint Paradox just reminded me how much I need to read all 63 issues of Flashpoint, because I've only read the main story. I have not read the tie-ins, so the Martha Joker I've never experienced in the comics.
No, it's pretty cool. I would recommend it. Yeah, and it should all be in DC Universe by now.
It is. I've already got it bookmarked. But okay, so moving on, one thing that I do want to point out about this particular panel, the Flash movie panel was the first one that we got that didn't have a whole lot of new information. They haven't started filming yet.
Right.
Now, it's uncharted territory for a Flash movie to get this far. In fact, I saw people yesterday that were now touting this as, now it's happening. Like it was official confirmation for them. I mean, this is Andy Muschietti, which we now know how to pronounce his name. Andy Muschietti is the movie's fourth director. But it was him, and it was Ezra Miller, and it was Christina Hodson, the screenwriter. And if you don't know that name, she is the writer of Birds of Prey.
Yep.
She's also been developing a Batgirl script that is still out there in the ether.
Hamada clearly likes her work. And, we'll get it. Birds of Prey was a good movie. I mean, we both really enjoyed that movie, so I'm not opposed to that at all.
It also, her work seems to be having an impact overall, because it's clearly something that Ezra Miller, because he's been vocal about not necessarily liking certain approaches, and he appears to be on board with this approach. So is Muschietti. Whatever was in her script was enough for Affleck to say yes, and for Keaton to be interested as well. So that's important to note there. But they did as much as they could in this Flash panel with whatever they had. The biggest reveal was your costume. So now when you watch,
I love it.
When we get to another movie that one of the big ones that we're gonna talk about later, there's a mental trick that you now can do.
Yes, there is.
when that comes up. But it was awesome to see them adjust their panel to what they had and still manage to give us something new and fresh. And, that rolls into the next panel, which was another big one that we were curious about, the Suicide Squad. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And this was the big, I'd say for cast-wise, it was the biggest panel by far. I don't have the list in front of me, Brent. We got a decent amount of information on this particular panel because we finally discovered who everybody is. And I will be completely honest with you, I don't know who most of these characters are. I really don't, to be honest with you.
We were talking about that during, and it's you're like, I don't know who these guys are. And Scott and I are like, we're going to have to look up some of these names. And whatever. They looked fun. It looks like it's going to be fun. So, Polka Dot Man, I mean, really? It's I've heard of him. I don't even know if I've ever read a comic with him in it. But David Smolchin, it's going to be the Polka Dot Man. The cast looks great. The panel was fun. They did their trivia game, and it really just showed the chemistry that the panel had. But obviously, the highlight was definitely the behind-the-scenes footage. What did you think about that?
I loved it. It was, it's weird, right? Because we have talked about this before on this show. When they first started, when the idea was first floated that James Gunn was going to come over to DC, this was right after Marvel had fired him, and the overwhelming perception from a lot of people is, oh great, he's going to do Guardians of the Galaxy. He's going to make a Guardians of the Galaxy version of Suicide Squad. And I have said from the beginning, listen guys, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He is more than just Rocket and Star-Lord and Gamora and the tone of that film. He's done other stuff. I saw Brightburn last year, which he didn't direct but was produced, and that was a very different film than anything that he did with Marvel. So I want to give him the benefit of the doubt to see what he does here. And I really do feel like that behind-the-scenes footage, at least from what I could tell, I think they changed some minds yesterday. I don't know how many, but you look at it and you don't see a ton of green screen. It's not like there's a bunch of blue screen like sets, and it's not like there's going to be no green screen or no visual effects or anything like that. There's going to be plenty, but to see all the wire work and to see all the practical stunts and to see all the actual like explosions, Harley, this might be her best costume so far. We haven't even seen this movie, and
unquestionably. Yes.
And I mean, and I have nothing against her look in Suicide Squad was awesome. Her look in Birds of Prey was awesome. This is, I mean, it's like she keeps progressing. Like her looks continue to get better, and I love her look. I love Margot Robbie being so willing to do the wire work, because I know that was her on the wires for a lot of those shots. And you know, there was that one shot where she's got the two guns and the cameras swirling around her, and like,
yes, that shot was fantastic. I love that shot.
Yeah, I honestly, man, to be very honest with you, I feel like in many ways this movie could be James Gunn's magnum opus. This could end up being the best movie he's done to this point in his career. It really could. And not only that, not just looking at how awesome the behind-the-scenes footage looks, but also hearing his enthusiasm and his knowledge, and the idea that he's treating this movie as a continuation of the Ostrander comic run. Like he's going to the roots. He's going to the well with this. This isn't somebody that was just hired to do a Suicide Squad movie and that was it. And we were told this about him, his attention to detail and how accurate and like where he likes to draw from with these characters, how serious he takes the source material. We are seeing that with this. I honestly, man, I'm more excited for that movie than I was before, and I'll go ahead and tell anybody. I saw some people that were like, I saw this phrase a lot. I'm sorry, the Suicide Squad looks good. Don't apologize. This movie looks good. This movie looks like it could be very special, and I think it'd do very well for them. You know, we'll see what the theater situation is like. You would really hope that the theater situation is significantly improved by August of 2021. Really hope that's the case. But, you know, nah, man, this movie's got some juice behind it, not just because of the cast, but it looks good. It looks like they're really pulling out the stops for this one, and I'm legitimately excited for it.
Absolutely. I know some people are conflicted about it because they didn't want to support this movie because of their personal opinions about James Gunn. I totally get it. Don't judge you for that. And then they see this footage and they're like, oh, but now I want to watch it. And I get the conflict that people are now having to go through. And you know what? You've got another year to reconcile that with yourself. But I'm going to be there.
Yeah, for sure. Just sign me up. I mean, and again, it's another panel that was making use of what they had. They've been in post for a while. They were fortunate enough to finish principal photography before the pandemic hit. And so they didn't give us a trailer. But the behind-the-scenes footage, quite honestly, I feel like in many ways did more for the perception of that film. I feel like that, at least at this point in time, we're going to need to see a trailer because we're going to need to get an idea of the tone. But for now, I think this was eye-opening for a lot of people to see, this is what they're doing? Okay, all right, this might be on my radar. I don't think they changed everybody's minds, but I think they changed a lot of minds yesterday. I really do.
They definitely got a lot of people on board who weren't on before. Now, and you know what? There's something to be said for being able to do that when you don't even have a trailer yet, like a real trailer. Now, once we get the full trailers, especially by the time we get the story trailer, usually the second one, I think a lot of people are going to be on board for this one. I don't think too many people are going to sleep on it.
I completely agree with that.
All right, so next up was the DC Comics Secret Panel, which found out to be an announcement related to Milestone Comics. They're bringing them back. Icon, Hardware, Rocket, and Static. So from the Static Shock show. Static is by far the breakout character of Milestone. I already know you haven't read anything with Milestone. I don't even have to ask you. I've read a little bit. Only one or two issues probably that were actually Milestone issues, but there was a Worlds Collide event in like the 90s with DC, and some of those Milestone characters like Static showed up in issues of Superboy or issues of Superman that I was reading. So I've seen just a little bit of these characters. And then I know Static had a book for a little while during the New 52. I wasn't a fan of it, to be honest. But he's a great character. Did several great characters here. I am looking forward to seeing them come back. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. the new comics. They announced a podcast that could be interesting. We don't know what it's going to entail. And I was telling you before we started today that I had a hard time hearing this panel because we were just talking so much in our group chat. There's a movie, right? They're doing a movie now. So what was that about?
He said they're in serious talks about a Static Shock film, a Static Shock movie. And that got everybody, it's weird because we all wondered what that was. It said secret DC Comics panel, and we all wondered what it was. And then when we discovered what it was, people were waiting for like the big, like I saw this on Twitter. People were like, well, this was it? This was the big thing? And then all of a sudden they hear Static Shock movie, and everyone is just like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's the big reveal right there. There's the big information in the secret panel, a Static Shock film. And you're right, I haven't really read... I haven't read any Milestone comics. I haven't seen the Static Shock show. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but it's definitely something that I need to dig into and understand more about, especially, given its subject matter. Which, let's be clear, this is a great time to bring back Milestone comics. This is perfect timing to bring all that back.
Could not be a better time for it.
And, there was a definite theme of diversity among the FanDome experience yesterday. One of the panels before this was the boss panel, which was the Black American or the female, the women of color rather, that are in the DC universe, and that was an awesome panel. Javicia Leslie was in that panel, Brent.
It's on my list to try and track down to see if I can see it. I didn't catch it yesterday. Like 2 minutes of it maybe, but it is one I want to see.
She was at Javicia Leslie, for people that don't know, that's our new Batwoman. She talked a bit about that, but also Nafisa Williams, Anissa from Black Lightning, Candace Patton, of course, Iris West Allen from The Flash. But what was also Anna Jope from Titans was there. And also I don't remember the actress's name, but the one's going to play Blackfire in season 3, her sister. She's there.
You're right. I don't remember it though either.
Yeah, but and also what I also really liked about that panel was that Chantel Toy, forgive me, I'm sorry. Wow, and I can't remember her name on Anissa's girlfriend on Black Lightning.
Grace,
thank you. She was there, and so was Taylor Ash, Zari from Legends of Tomorrow. I love the fact that it was women of color. It wasn't just black women. That they included those two. That's important. That's really important. I'm glad that they made that distinction, and they did that. So you combine that with this Milestone panel and Milestone coming back, and the idea of a Static Shock film in discussions. Like, I don't know that they've gotten as far as, like, green lighting or a director or an official announcement, but he said they're definitely talking about it. Serious discussions about that happening. And like you said, all the other stuff, the comics line coming back and all the other issues and whatever projects are happening, that's all in the works. That's awesome. And that's another one of those in-between panels that was just really awesome to see that and to get that perspective, to see Dennis Cowan, who's someone that I haven't really seen a whole lot of his art, but he did draw that really awesome image, that Juneteenth image, or I saw it on Juneteenth, of all of the Black DC Comics characters in front of the American flag. I want a poster of that.
Yes,
I so really want a poster of that. But just to hear them talk about the history of Milestone and to talk about the future and expanding Milestone even further than it's ever been expanded. I mean, this is the AT&T way, man, and so far it is fantastic what they're doing with all this.
Yeah. I think at the start people were like, really, this is the panel, but by the end of it, people were like, oh, what a great secret panel they did. I guess my only question is why they felt the need to keep it a secret. I don't know, but it was, by the end of it, it's like, yes, everybody was on board, everybody was excited, lots of hype, and then 2 minutes later, everybody started talking about something else. What panel was next?
Yes, the Snyder Cut panel. Now, a lot of us needed to take a minute to digest the fact that a Snyder Cut panel at an officially sanctioned DC Comics event even exists. We're in that timeline, gentlemen. We're in that timeline, people. As awful as 2020 has been for all of us, that's happening. That's real. So that was the first part of it, Brent. For those of us that have been fighting for this for 2.5 years, and I of course have said I can only claim 2 years of that because that first half year I was where I was. But just the fact that it exists, the fact that Zack Snyder is hosting his own panel at a DC FanDome event, and you know what was crazy? You know, and we'd mentioned this in our chat. That panel was designed for the fans of the Snyder Cut movement because they brought in Fiona. They brought in, I forget who the other guy was, but like members of the Snyder Cut movement to really, and you know, they had him answer questions, right? Like he answered questions and gave us more details. Patty Jenkins came. That was awesome. I really like that because I don't know if you've seen it, Brent, but there's been some crap on the internet with respect to.
I've seen some of it. I've never understood it, but I've seen it. Yeah.
It's stupid. It's silly. I'm glad that they actually, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but I'm glad they put her in the panel.
Of course they did it on purpose. And of course, when he was talking to Gal, he made a reference to how good she was in Wonder Woman 84. It's like, yeah, you've seen it, haven't you? It's like, come on.
No, yes, I said that. I was like, even he's seen it already. Yeah, but you know what was great was like Affleck was in, you know, Ben Affleck was in this panel. Ray Fisher was there. Ezra was there. Henry Cavill was there. Asking a question, and so it was that everybody was there except Jason Momoa, like as far as the Justice League cast, and I think we already knew ahead of time that he wasn't going to be a part of that panel, but it was an awesome fan event, you know, for those of us that are that are Snyder Cut fans, like an awesome, just very rewarding to be at this moment where it exists. The nuts and bolts information that was important that we got, 4-hour-long episodes is what it will initially be released at, and then we will get the altogether 4-hour-long epic later, on HBO Max.
So everybody gets their preferred viewing. You get to see 4 episodes, and then an hour later. And I did see later after this that Snyder basically said they said they don't know, they don't have a release schedule yet. So is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be binge model? You got to assume they're going to drop it weekly and probably spread it out over 2 months because that way they can, you know, hopefully hook people for 2 months worth of subscriptions and get people sold on the service so that they stay on HBO Max even after they've finished watching this.
Absolutely. There is no question about that. I think that would be the optimal range of sharing this for sure. But yeah, it's essentially that. I think I brought this up before. It's the Hateful Eight structure, the Hateful Eight Quentin Tarantino film. That when Netflix put it on their service, there are 2 ways to watch this film. You can either watch the theatrical version, that's like 2.5 hours long, or you can watch it as a 4-part miniseries that is longer. Collectively, it is longer. You get a little bit more if you watch it in 4-episode miniseries form. I don't think there's not going to be a distinction. It's not like the 4-hour, like the 4-hour long version is going to be shorter than that. No, it's going to be, in this case with the Snyder Cut, it's going to be everything in both versions, but it's the same structure where like you have the options of which way to watch it. I will, of course, be watching it both ways because you're not going to keep me away from watching it weekly or whatever their structure is. And then, I am going to watch it all together as one piece when it is available. And I'm still hoping, and I know Scott and others have said it's going to happen, but I'm still hoping for a glorious Steelbook
in movie shocked.
Form.
I would be shocked if they didn't do that. I mean, I think it'll take a while because they're going to want to have that exclusivity on HBO Max for a while. But eventually, they're probably going to let it be purchased on other VOD platforms, on Amazon, on iTunes and stuff. And then, physical home release as well, so that you can pre-order your Steelbook for your collection. So,
Brent, we know that I loved the trailer. We know that.
I didn't see you say that.
Okay, well, I loved the trailer. I posted the fainting gif of I forget Jennifer Lewis, who most commonly known from Blackish. I don't know what this is from, but there's a scene where she's like fainting in church or something like that. That's all I posted, and everybody knew what I meant.
Sure.
When I posted it. So yes, of course I love that. My goodness, amazing trailer. But how did you feel about it?
I liked it. It was pretty good. I won't lie. I loved the Barry stuff. Like, there's that shot in like the first original trailer or whatever from 2016 of Barry like pushing his finger through the glass, and they did the moment just before that, And they did the moment what is clearly just after that. And I'm like, okay, good. I really like that scene. They're going to put that scene back in. That was like my favorite shot of Ezra Miller's Flash from any footage we've seen of him to date. And so I'm excited to get to see that again. The whole Speed Force effects around it. It's like, yeah, and you said earlier, there's a mental trick I can play now. I'm just going to mentally superimpose that new costume concept art onto the Flash costume in this. And then I can just really enjoy those scenes because the way they do his powers are really good. Trailer opened up with Darkseid. I thought he looked fantastic. I saw what I think was an insult, but it just, I don't understand it. He was getting compared to a video game villain, but specifically a PS2 one. Maybe that means something. I don't understand it. I didn't think that when I saw it. I just saw Darkseid and I thought, wow, he looks really great. They did a really good job with the character design. He looks, I mean, he's Darkseid. I don't know what people are wanting. I hope we see the Omega beams. I mean, they weren't in this trailer. I just hope by the end of it that we see those crazy laser eyes darting 90 degrees up and down, left and right. I've always liked that.
Zack Snyder directed Omega Beam. Oh, good.
I want to see it. I hope we do.
I don't know if we're ready for that. It's going to be amazing.
The song choice, Hallelujah, I've never heard a version of that song I didn't enjoy. I liked it here. I think it was. I watched the trailer several times. You know, we watched it all together. We did the reaction video for it, and then you guys were all talking about it while I was trying to pick up whatever was in the next panel. But I've watched it several times since, and you know, I think it looks like a good movie. And I've always said a fully directed Snyder movie is going to be better than the mismatch we got. A fully directed by one director is going to be better, period, regardless of who it is. And if you go back to 2016, I was excited for this
2017.
movie. Well, even 2016, but you're right.
That's true. No, you're right. No, you're right. It was in production. That's right. That's a crazy thing about this is principal photography was happening in 2016.
Yes.
And finished in 2016. Like the Snyder principal photography.
But go back and listen to us talk about the footage we were getting, like that first trailer and stuff, where like my biggest complaint was Ezra's costume, the Power Ranger costume. But I still liked what I was seeing from the footage. I am excited to see what is going to happen. No, I never thought this was going to come. No, I did not champion this effort because there was a lot of stuff with the effort that I didn't appreciate. But I am still going to watch the 4 episodes or whatever, and if I enjoy them, then I will probably watch the actual like movie version as well, just to experience it both ways, because it'll probably play a little bit different, you know, week to week versus waiting for the trade, I guess is what I'll call it. You know, as we got the single releases and then waiting for the trade. No, I'm on board. It looked good. Did it give me Green Lantern? No, it didn't. But honestly, I'd kind of made a couple inquiries behind the scenes ahead of time, being like, all right, do I need to be prepared for no Green Lantern? And I was basically told there's smoke, but be prepared not to see anything there. So I'm like, okay, fine. Well, we'll just go with that. I'm still going to hope for some version of Green Lantern. You know, he did do that Q&A on Vero that Scott pointed out to me where he did heavily imply that, yes, there will be a Green Lantern. And I don't care who it is. Just let me see that logo in live action. That's all I want. So, but the footage we got, Superman looked cool. The black suit looked great. There's only one little bit of dialogue in it, and it's at the very end of the trailer, and it's basically Barry saying, this guy's conquered tons and tons of other worlds, we're screwed. And Batman's just like, well, he's never faced us before. I'm like, that's a cool moment. That's a good Batman moment, that confidence there. I like that a lot. So I'm ready to see it.
Right, that never faced us, not us united.
Yes, not us united.
For sure. It was so gratifying to see so many things that we didn't see in the theatrical release 3 years ago. You know, the scene that you brought up with Barry saving Iris, that was a scene that as early as weeks after the theatrical release of the film was leaked, VFX of that were leaked, where we knew that sequence existed and it was taken out of the movie. Here we see it in it's not 100% finished. And Stephen Colbert brought up on Real in Motion that the card still bounces a little funny. But it's fine. It's a trailer, whatever. It'll be finished. It'll be finished properly in time when we see the film next year. Or show.
I forgot to say one moment. We see Victor's father's death. And
that's critical.
The part I want to point out there is the emotion on Ray Fisher's face in that 2 seconds or whatever is just an absolute stellar piece of acting. Absolutely phenomenal piece of acting. The facial expressions he was able to channel for that scene, very impressive. Very well done.
And you know, that was probably the biggest. I think this trailer had very specific intentions. Nothing in this trailer was unintentional. Everything had a purpose. Yes, this trailer was to introduce the Snyder Cut officially as a trailer to the public. It was also intended to make a very clear distinction between what this is and what we saw 3 years ago. That's why we saw Silas's death in this trailer. Because, of course, in the theatrical version, Silas is alive and continues throughout after the end of this movie. This is clearly not going to be the case with this particular project. Seeing Iris getting rescued, that's different. The black suit is different, which we saw the black suit twice because we saw that hero shot, which was just better versions of shots that we saw that were clearly redone, right? Like the hero shot, to see all 6 of them standing in front of the Flying Fox, you know, black suit Superman with the other members of the Justice League, you know, to see Batman deflecting parademon blasts with his gauntlets, right? To see all the Speed Force effects. There was just so, and to see the visceral nature, to see Desaad, to see OG Steppenwolf.
Which, when he released that footage or that shot of Steppenwolf, I said it's kind of low resolution. Ask me again after I get a high quality copy to look at. Looks great, absolutely look great.
Fantastic, and you know, to see just to see something that looks like it's the actual sequel to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. You know, to see something that aesthetically and thematically fits what was established in Man of Steel and BVS. That's what this looks like. That is what I am excited for. That is what I cannot wait for. Bring it on. And it's just very gratifying to finally be at this point. You know, and it's funny, Brent, I don't know if Zack Snyder actually surprised the Real in Motion guys. They did their round table after FanDome last night, and he dropped in on their conversation and was
I caught a few minutes of it. And
he was very candid. He's been very candid and honest lately. Like, I mean, he's never been more raw than he was at Justice Con, but he's been a lot more honest about details. One of the funniest things one of the most interesting things, telling things that I heard him say was he thought this would take 5 years. Like, when the campaign for all of this to, like, come up, you know, I mean, we all wondered how long it would take before they would actually greenlight something like this. And, you know, everyone brought up the Donner Cut example. That took, like, 23 years, right?
Yeah.
He himself said he thought 5 years. He didn't think it would happen this fast. And I think the biggest thing to come out of that is all praise to HBO Max. All praise to HBO Max.
So, when you told us about that, like, you put it in our group chat and you're just like, are you kidding me, Scott? He is on this thing right now. And I opened it up to look at it, and then I'm like, wait, Scott's on this thing too right now. I did not realize that Scott was on the panel at the time. And so I gotta ask, how jealous are you of Scott right now?
You know, honestly, I'm not. I mean, there was initially there's that moment of like, oh, I'd love to be in on something like this. But, you know, like, Scott, the last couple months, he's really, like, he's been on Film Junkies Vodka Stream, and, you know, he's been, you know, he and Tim, you know, they know Colbert, they know Dave, they know Ben, they know Garza and all those guys, you know, like, they've all been doing the live stream thing for a minute. So quite honestly, I felt awesome for them because this was very rewarding for them. And, you know, for me, I am one of, you know, I'm in the Snyder Cut boat with them. Like, I've been fighting for it, but, you know, I still dabble in other things. You know, my wide strike zone affords me the ability where it's like, okay, I am all in for the Snyder Cut, but it's not, I don't necessarily have, like, as singular of a focus as a lot of these other guys do, you know, like Scott or Tim or others. I mean, absolutely, I am 100% with them, and I support everything that they do, and I'm totally interested in everything, and I'm just as happy as they are that this is happening. But if he was going to drop in on and have a conversation, if Zack Snyder was going to drop in and have a conversation with any of those guys, I would want it to be, like, those guys deserve it.
Sure.
To be honest with you, I feel less jealous about it and more. I feel more sad for Tim. I wish Tim had been there with them.
Yeah.
Tim, I feel like. I feel like Tim and Scott deserved to be a part of that. To be very honest with you, like that would have been really awesome. So that's I feel more of that than I do jealousy. I mean, yes, of course. Initially, it's like, well, son of a, they get to talk to him. That's whatever. But no, it was an awesome moment, and it was great for them, and you could totally tell that they were all blown away by it, and just a lot of genuine emotion from all of them. That was an awesome moment for all those guys, so hats off to them. And the Comics Movie Marks guys were there too. Want to bring them up too. They were also a part of that conversation. I think that's everybody that was in there. I think. If I'm forgetting somebody that was in that conversation, I apologize, but it was a really awesome moment, and yes, Scott was a part of it. He'll never forget that moment. I know he won't. So that was great. It was just awesome to have him sit there in a candid conversation and remind us all that at the end of the day, he is a fan. And that's a big thing with DC FanDome that I think is important, is we saw these creators, these directors as fans. All of them. We know how much of a fan Zack Snyder is, but I feel like we saw that with Patty Jenkins. We saw that with Andy Muschietti. The couple of panels that we have left to talk about, we saw that with those creatives, once we get to them here. And the fan came out in them yesterday with FanDome. And I think that was as important as the information that they were conveying, because they were showing us that they were one of us, and that they're just like us, and that they have the same enthusiasm and the same excitement for these characters and these properties as we do. And it was just a great moment.
Well, I think that about sums it up on the Snyder Cut. Let's go on to the next panel, which I'm pretty sure you missed, but there was one teensy bit of information I wanted to address with it. So the next one was the Flash TV panel. The panel itself was fluff, whatever. There was really nothing there, but they're not. I think they're back in production, but they're just barely. Like they showed us new footage, but it was mainly footage from what they had actually filmed last year when COVID shut them down. And the part that I found interesting was they did say that they had about 1 day left of filming of what would have been episode 20. If you remember, episode 19 was their season finale, if you can call it that. Gosh, it was terrible. And they had about 1 day left to film, and then later they said they had like roughly 85% of the footage from that done. Okay, great. So that's what they're using to kick off the next season. I will say this. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the trailer they put out for it. I thought it looked pretty good overall. Of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, but I remember exactly what the last 2 or 3 episodes were like, and they weren't pretty good, so who knows? But maybe I would have felt differently about those if they'd had the opportunity to finish it. And maybe when I look at episode 1 this year, which is, they're drawing heavily from, maybe that will make me look back on it a little more positively. Hopefully that will make me look back on it a little more positively, because as it is, it's not great. But that's really, I mean, the only other news that I heard come out of that was Iris, like Candace Patton confirming Iris is going to get out of the microverse soon. So, or the Mirrorverse soon. So, I mean, that's about it. But I don't know what soon means. Is it 1 episode? Is it 3 episodes? So, I'm ready for her to come out, and I'm ready for the next storyline.
So am I. I did see that trailer, and it just felt like, oh, this is probably how the season should have ended. Like how season 6 should have ended. Okay, I'm seeing a trailer for how you should, because I'm, and it's what you just said. I'm ready for the next storyline. On DC TV Squadcast, I made my feelings very clear on what I thought about this Joseph Carver, Eva McCulloch deal, and I can really leave it. I really can. It's not very compelling for me. It's all subjective. I'm sure somebody out there really enjoys it, but for me, just not my thing, and the sooner they finish it, the better. So, yeah, I'm ready for whatever the rest of Season 7 is going to be. I do worry that it's going to feel a bit like Titans Season 2, and I know that this is out of their control.
Yeah, whereas Titans was their choice. I mean, that was an own goal.
Right. I love that phrase, own goal. That's a perfect way to put it. Titans absolutely shot themselves in the foot with that. This is different, but it does have a similar feel where the beginning of this upcoming season is going to feel like how the season premiere of season 2 of Titans felt. It's like, this was really just the season 1 finale. And then the second episode of Titans season 2 was the beginning, the actual beginning of season 2. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm ready for this mirror stuff. Iris being in that mirror, you know how I feel about dramatic irony.
Right.
And the dramatic irony is now over because they know she's there, but now it's like, okay, get her out. Let's just move forward. You have better stories to tell. You've told better stories than this. They have. The Flash has told, in my opinion, far better stories than this particular season. So yeah, I'm ready for them to move on with that as well. I agree.
Well, then next up is a panel for another movie that's coming that, they didn't give us new footage technically, but we saw some animated concept art. Black Adam, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, charismatic as always. What did you think about the Black Adam panel?
It might have been the most visually impressive panel with having as little to work with as they did.
I would agree completely.
I mean, this panel was just The Rock. And a little bit of Noah Centineo. Mm-hmm. Little bit of him.
Official confirmation that he will be Atom Smasher.
Absolutely, which that was reported. We talked on that before, but this is now. I mean, and I think he's been posting Instagram workout shots, and he made that comment about how he's been working out on the tarmac.
Yeah.
But this was really just Dwayne Johnson, and to be honest with you, you have Dwayne Johnson at your disposal. You can do this with him. Mm-hmm. You can do a panel where it is just him speaking and answering questions, and it works. He has that ability. The charisma is off the charts. He is arguably the most likable person in Hollywood, period. How do you hate this guy? Like, how? And the Black Adam has been on the radar for all of us with him for years. We have been waiting a long time for them to just get to this point where he can actually officially hype it. And I remember, Brent, there was even, it might have been earlier this year, but somebody came out with speculation, he might go to Marvel. He might do something with Marvel. And people got really afraid because, what does that mean for Black Adam? Black Adam has always been in kind of that, we really want this to happen, but we're afraid that it's not going to. And now I think it's pretty clear, no, it's happening. It's definitely happening. But, the way that again, this was their approach to not having a whole lot because they haven't begun filming. They haven't even completely finished casting, but we got, what was great about this was not only the graphic artist representations that we got, we saw what he's going to, the renditions of what his costume is going to look like further from just that Boss Logic graphic that we got a while back.
Right.
So we've got more of that. The revelation, the official confirmation of JSA.
Mm-hmm.
And not just JSA, but Hawkman and
Dr. Fate and Cyclone.
Right.
And then, of course, Atom Smasher, but we already mentioned him.
Right. So, those confirmation of those JSA characters, that was important information that we didn't have before that we have now. And then I just thoroughly enjoyed him calling out the Justice League.
And, not just the Justice League, but, he kind of teased the potential is there for him and Henry Cavill to face off. And
he did.
Yes,
he
please make
did.
happen. We didn't get any updates on Henry Cavill's status right now. I really thought that either this or the Shazam panel was going to possibly be where we would get that update. It didn't happen, but he teased it, so it's still a possibility, and that's what I want to see.
It's still a possibility. It's still on the table, and not only that, we know The Rock wants it, and it's really difficult to tell that guy no.
And it really helps that they share an agent.
Oh yes, absolutely. The fact that the Garcias are
mm-hmm.
their agents, yes. $7 Productions, yes, for sure. So no, I thought the Black Adam panel, for what it was fantastic. And again, all these panels took questions, from fans that were sent in, and again, everything that we're watching was pre-produced, but it felt the energy was there. The energy was there for all these pre-produced panels, and they just all did it in a different way, and. They made the most of the resources that they had, and the Black Adam panel made the most of the fact that Dwayne Johnson was their centerpiece, and it was just fantastic. And his whole thing about the hierarchy of power of the DC universe is about to change.
Yes,
it's just fantastic. And that movie is not. Its release date is still December 22nd, 2021. As of now, they're still sticking to that, even though their production schedule has definitely been delayed. They should have already been filming at this point, from what we had originally heard. because I think we had heard May, June was when they were going to start filming that, and they're going to get going here soon because Noah Centinio's been training, and The Rock is saying, yeah, it's getting going, but for safely, of course, but yeah, it's
sure.
The promise of that movie looks fantastic. It's going to be an education for me because there's so much about that character that I don't know, but yeah, I'm excited for it. Excited to have The Rock in the DC universe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't remember the last time he was in a movie I didn't like, so no, absolutely. Next panel up was, at least the next panel that I watched was Titans. Did you catch that one?
I did, actually, and you know what the great thing about Titans, now, I will say that of all the panels in DC FanDome, this was the one that was most like a Comic-Con at Home panel.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Because it really did feel like it was all just Zoom calls, and I know that your pet peeve came up. You had your biggest complaint.
It did. The audio in this one was a little dodgy. Like, that was their biggest flaw. But the panel was a clip show from the last 2 seasons. Call it what it is. But there was some interesting nuggets that came out in the last couple minutes. They're going to Gotham. Okay, great. They've spent a little bit of time in Gotham, but very little. But they're going to see a few new characters. Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow. I'm very intrigued to see what they're going to do with him. Hopefully he's not just Jonathan Crane, but we see a Scarecrow in costume. And then on top of that, Commissioner Barbara Gordon. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Batman Beyond, where she's the commissioner. But it's like, oh, so where's Jim? What's his status? And then, of course, Jason, part of me feels like he's skipping a crowbar. But even without that, he is going to adopt his current identity of the Red Hood. And I am glad that he's going to still be a part of the show. I don't want him to leave the show, and if that's how they do it, if they need to skip the crowbar to make that happen, so be it. The Red Hood, man, that'll be awesome to see the Red Hood in live action for the first time.
That is like, for someone that has never read Death in the Family, it's like when I read that, like that's arguably the most spoiled comic that I will have read because I already know.
Of the crowbar?
Well, because that's one where it's like, if you're a DC fan, it's just, whether you've read it or not, how do you not know? And I've seen Under the Red Hood. I have seen the Under the Red Hood animated movie. So it's like, okay, how do you not know that? And I guess they haven't officially said that he's going to skip the crowbar. We don't know.
That's true.
We're not sure. I mean, they very well could. And I'm sure a lot of people who weren't too pleased with season 2, especially how it ended, are probably just assuming that they're going to skip it. And maybe they do.
For the record, you said on DC TV I didn't like season 2. I'm going to clear the air on that. I did not like the finale. I liked the season. The finale was not good. The season I thought was really good. That's part of what made the finale so disappointing to me.
You had said that, you had clarified that on Twitter, and then I went back, I recalled my memories of some of those episodes, like, no, we did like that season.
It was a strong season. Deathstroke was good.
The Jericho stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we did like that
Superboy
overall.
Superboy.
Oh. Well, you know what? The clip show helped me with that too, because the battle, the fight in the house with Crypto.
Yep.
I remembered that, and and of course the Starfire stuff with her and Blackfire, and like that whole cliffhanger. I'm like, no, season 2 was good. That finale just sucked.
Right. It was. I mean, the first episode, they were cleaning up the first season's mess up of a finale. So, but if you look at cut off the first and last episodes, just the middle block were solid. It was good storytelling. Give me more of that, please. Season 3, can we stick the landing? Please, can we stick the landing?
Yes. Titans has yet to stick a landing with either of their seasons for a variety of reasons. But no, even in that panel, Brent, even in what was... Actually, no. The panel after it was the worst panel. But one of the lesser panels, I guess you could say, that didn't have a whole lot. Even Titans was able to give us some information.
Well,
the panel after...
So what was the one after that?
Aquaman.
Oh, man, okay. You know what? I wasn't even going to bring up Aquaman because it gave us so little.
It gave us nothing.
We've got confirmation of Ocean Master's return. Okay, great. Honestly, it gave us nothing, and we probably talked about it more time than it really needed.
Probably, yeah. So let's go ahead and move to the Shazoom call.
Shazoom, yes.
Yes.
Another one where they haven't started production. They really didn't want to tell us much. They made it very clear they didn't want to tell us much. And yeah, technically it was just a Zoom call, but it was hilarious. But I mean, Zachary Levi and then the rest of that cast, it was hilarious. It wasn't very long, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would have happily watched more.
I saw a lot of people, and I know humor is subjective, as is all of our opinions. It's all subjective. And I saw a lot of people that were bored with it and that were down on it, and it's like, just weren't having any fun with it. And I was like, okay, guys, harsh a little? Like, just, can we have a little fun? I mean, this is a movie that has not begun filming yet, for obvious reasons. Let's cut them some slack and also understand how funny the original movie was, because it was funny. Like that I've made it no bones about it. The type of humor that I love to see in comic book movies is all over Shazam. That organic type of humor, and it was present here when Sinbad showed up. That was fantastic. The fact that they referenced Sinbad and the Mandela effect with him and Shazam and Kazam, that was the centerpiece, man. That was fantastic. I loved that. The fact that they brought that in. And Sinbad was there were like throughout the FanDome, Jake from State Farm showed up a bunch of times, right? Mm-hmm. And like Venus Williams, like there were other like kind of guest stars that like aren't connected to DC. It was like, oh, that's cool. They got them to do that. And you know what? I completely forgot that we're talking about humor right now, but I forgot about the Batman Beyond. Oh
my gosh, those were so good.
The commentary of that 66 episode, that was fantastic.
That one, and then there was one there. I don't know if, because I think this one was playing when we had all taken a break, but there was one where it was Brave and the Bold Batman, a Lego Batman from like those straight to DVD or straight to home release Lego movies, and then Kevin Conroy's Batman as young Batman, and Batman Beyond talking about wearing a mask, and Batman Beyond, the only one with the full face mask, chastised them all for having the wrong type of mask. You left out the open part, the most important. It was so funny. I love those. Yeah, I saw a link to it on Twitter earlier. Someone had shared the video. Highly, highly recommend. They were so funny.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. But no, so humor, I feel like was even that was done really well throughout FanDome, and the Shazoom call was outstanding because the way that they had it orchestrated, like that you had the Shazoom logo and they were treating it like a Zoom call, but it was this, it's Zachary Levi trying to dance around details and everybody just not necessarily helping him. Faith Herman was there, Darla, Asher Angel, of course, Jack Dylan Grazer, who's got he's got that teenage peach fuzz mustache now.
Yeah.
The puberty's kicking in with him for sure. Megan Good was there, adult Darla, which I thought that was awesome. And also Adam Brody showed up, adult Freddy. Mm-hmm. He showed up. So it was, and of course David Sandberg, director, He popped up. And in the midst of all the hilarity and dancing around details, we actually did get an important detail. The title of the sequel is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. And I think it's awesome that because of how hilarious the panel was, I wasn't certain if it was the real title until the moderator at the end of it was like, here's the real title. We have a title, Fury of the Gods. I was like, oh, it's real. Okay, awesome. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Yeah. You like the title?
I do. I like the title. I don't know enough about Shazam in the comics to know, like, is that pointing towards one specific story? I honestly don't know. But I know Shazam is heavily, like, his powers come from the gods. So that should be... I'm already wondering, are they going to try and reclaim their power? Is this going to bring in Black Adam? Like, I've got questions. I'm there for it. The first movie was great. It's not the first thing I rewatched when I got HBO Max, but it was up there. I did watch it again, and it had been quite a while since I had seen it, and I thoroughly enjoyed that first one. I'm ready for Fury of the Gods. So, Suicide Squad, right? That's next. The other Suicide Squad panel?
Yes, there was another Suicide Squad panel that, quite honestly, like, impressed the hell out of me. Like, on the same level of Gotham Knight. We knew about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This is Rocksteady. This is Rocksteady. This is their game. We knew that was coming, that had already been announced and teased, and they're like, oh, full panel coming at DC FanDome. I thought it was going to be a fighting game. It's not. It's a 4-player multiplayer co-op game.
Yep, and they said you'll be able to switch players if you're playing by yourself, so you'll still have a squad of people with you. Oh, we're playing this thing.
we're playing it. They said it's also set in the Arkham game continuity.
Right.
So and it's Harley, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark.
The younger Captain Boomerang's son, who is a he's a speedster. So
is he? Okay.
Yeah,
All
like
right.
if you go back and rewatch it, you can see the speed effects they were going on him, that they had going around him. I first started seeing him, I want to say it was around the Infinite Crisis time when Superboy Prime killed Superboy. Around that time is around when he started coming out, I think. Scott will correct me. But no, it seems like it's going to be a fun lineup, and yeah, we are definitely going to be getting this game and all going in together and causing some mayhem. I thought the trailer looked good. There's this moment where Deadshot basically takes his jetpack and shoots fire at a bunch of people. I laughed a little bit uncontrollably at that. I really wasn't expecting it. I should have, but no, it definitely worked for me. Yeah, the game looks like a lot of fun. I saw a little bit of annoyance that it wasn't coming out till 2022, but I'm happy about that because that'll give me time to get through Avengers and Spider-Man and the Gotham Knights game. And then by the time I'm through all that, now we won't be too long before. So if you're just skipping all those games and going straight to this game, I get why it feels like a long wait. But for me, it's actually really good timing. I need these games to be spaced out personally, so I'm happy.
It's going to be nicer on the wallet too.
Yes.
The thing is, okay, so I'm getting a PS5 and I'm getting Gotham Knights. I don't need to get. You don't need to add another game to that because these are $60-$70 games a piece. It's like, no, go ahead, space that out. I'm good. I'll wait. I have the patience. I know how this works. So no, I'm right there with you. We didn't get any gameplay footage like we did with Gotham Knights because it's not close. Gotham Knights is closer to being finished because obviously it's coming out a year earlier. But what we saw was fantastic, and yeah, the multiplayer co-op aspect of it is like, I can just imagine how this game is going to be structured and how they're going to piece things together and what the combat structure is going to be like. And just the entire premise of them having to hunt down a Brainiac-controlled Justice League is going to be... That's like, oh boy, this is...
I want a better look at that Superman costume. That Superman costume looked like it had some lines or something going down. I need to see a better picture of their design of Superman because it looked pretty interesting to me. I wanted a better look at him. And I want to know more about, they basically the general Justice League roster. I just want more on the specifics. I want to see character designs. Yes, I totally get it. But at the same time, I can wait. We got plenty of time, plenty of games. I mean, right now, let's focus on Gotham Knights, which we're going to get next year, and then we can turn our attention to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
Totally. But I will be completely honest with you. We were coming to the end of the night, and as that panel was going on, in the back of my mind, I was just ready for the next panel.
Oh, yeah.
Because the next panel was the final panel of the night, and you want to talk about going out with a bang. FanDome went out with a massive, massive bang with this panel.
Oh, yes, they did. I think it was the best panel. I really do.
Arguably so, yes. Matt Reeves, the Batman. And it was heavily anticipated. I love the fact DC FanDome did this on purpose. Aisha Tyler, who many of us have considered like the best Comic-Con moderator there is, they saved her for this panel. She was the one questioning Matt Reeves. And I love the way that they did it because they had them in a Jim Lee designed space, like a virtual atrium. And they clearly... I'm guessing how they did this was Aisha Tyler was talking to Matt Reeves, like maybe through Zoom or something like that, so they could see each other, but they're in different spaces and they're both being recorded against green screens wherever they are, so that they could be superimposed here. Because I don't think that height difference is. I think there's a bigger height difference between
wherever
Matt
they
Reeves.
are. He was probably on set of the Batman. You know?
Probably because I believe they have resumed. I believe they have resumed production. They had to obviously take a break for a good number of months as a result of the pandemic, but they're back up. But here, and Matt Reeves, Scott brought this up in our conversation. Matt Reeves, to hear him talk about Batman and to hear him talk about that movie is just, you could hear the excitement and the enthusiasm and the dedication and the knowledge. I mean, he knows, he understands. right? And he followed the path of, like, Snyder had basically given his appreciation to Reeves. Jenkins gave her appreciation to Snyder, and now Reeves here giving his appreciation to Batfleck and Zack Snyder in this panel. So it's like, okay, can we stop this narrative that DC directors don't like each other? Let's please shut that down, seriously. Like, but they're reading from a script. Well, they had to agree to it, okay? So just let's knock all that crap off. I hate that narrative. But at any rate, just the knowledge and what he was talking about and the tone and just all of the informational stuff. I mean, the conversation he had with Aisha Tyler was just phenomenal. And it was, I could sit there, I could have listened to it a good 10 more minutes of it. If I knew that we were getting a trailer, I could listen to 10 more minutes of that conversation. I really could. But I'll tell you what, that trailer, he made a comment about how the movie, he literally said, the movie's only 25 to 30% shot.
Right.
I don't believe you. I do not believe you, Matt Reeves. If you put a trailer together this good off of a maximum of 30% footage shot, you're the most ridiculous director known to man. Seriously. This trailer was amazing.
Phenomenal. Right away you got the duct tape sounds. And it's like, I don't remember who said it, but someone said, is that tape or whatever? And then they show you it's tape.
Scott said it,
and it's like, oh my gosh. And just, I love the whole vibe, the aesthetic, the looks. We finally got a good look of his costume. You know what? I dig it. Is it the best live action costume? No, I'm not going to call it that. But I like it, and it fits the world they're telling the story in. And, we didn't get a ton of action in it. We just got that brief little bit. But holy cow, this is not going to, they're not going to have any problems with the action in this movie. If that's what we're seeing, it's going to be fine. If I understand that people don't necessarily like the action in the Christopher Nolan movies, and then they were disappointed with the way when nobody thought we'd ever see Batfleck again because there won't be any more Martha Rescue caliber. I'm going to tell you what I saw here was Martha Rescue caliber. So if they can expand on that, then oh my gosh, I was blown away. This is my favorite trailer of the day. I don't know what my most anticipated panel was going in, but coming out of it, I thought this was the best panel. Matt Reeves, he answered questions in depth. He gave us information. It's not an origin story. It's a year 2 story. It's going to dive into a series of murders, and you'll get looks back at his origin of how they may or may not connect to the Waynes, to his parents and stuff. I saw some people speculating maybe that means they're setting up the Court of Owls. Please read the Court of Owls, Ray. Please read the Court of Owls.
Yeah.
And then they briefly talked about the show that's coming to HBO Max. That's going to be set during year 1. So now we know the timeline. The show is going to be approximately a year before the events of the movie, and we're going to see police reacting to it. To the Batman. Reeves talked about, somebody asked him a question like, what is the Gotham citizens, what do they think about it? And he basically boiled it down to, well, they're afraid of him. They think he's dangerous. If they believe he exists, they think he's dangerous. Some of them don't even believe he exists. And then just that trailer, I have it on in front of me right now, and it's just mesmerizing. The entire thing, massive mic drop on the entire thing. What a way to close out the what I hope is first annual DC FanDome.
I have watched this trailer significantly more times than the Snyder Cut trailer. I have.
That says a lot, let's be honest.
It does, and it is nothing against the Snyder Cut trailer. The Snyder Cut trailer is fantastic. But I'm a Batman fan at heart. Batman is the character that is my favorite hero. That is the one. He is my bridge into being a DC fan. And it literally through the movies and the animated series are what got me into being a DC fan in the first place, through Batman. So my heart is always going to lie with his interpretations. And this one looks like nothing we've ever seen before. I mean, the tone and the setting, I love the Nirvana cover for the music.
Yes.
Was just, and just the way that it was orchestrated. There were so many telling shots, and you're right. We finally got full confirmation from Reeves himself that this is a year 2 story and that the show is going to take place in year 1. The idea that the citizens and the police are afraid of him, I thought that what was really telling in the trailer was, when you see when Gordon, Jeffrey Wright as Gordon, who he looks perfect as Jim Gordon. but like when they're investigating the clues that Riddler has left behind, it's like, does that mean? And it's like addressed to the Batman. Does that mean anything to you? And that first shot when he's just walking up there, like first you're in awe that you're seeing him in his full costume, like here he is, and then you remember he's there with the cops at the scene of the crime. This is really a detective noir story where it isn't just that the cops are like treating him as whatever. No, he's there. He's part of this. There was that shot, and then there was that other shot where he's in the interrogation room fighting a cop in the middle of other cops, right? Like his temper got the best of him or something, and Gordon is pushing him against the wall, and it's like, this. We have never seen that before. This detective level where they were treating Batman as a detective. It's, you know what it reminded me of? It's like they're treating him like a private eye. He's a private eye. It's not just a case of, he's this urban legend and it's whatever and we arrest him on sight. He's a private eye. If they're investigating, they're going to question him. They're going to bring him in. They're going to talk to him. Like there's a dialogue between him and the police, even though everybody is afraid of him and even though they're afraid of him. And we've never seen that on screen like this, in this regard, like in live action. And I am very excited to see that. We got, the brief glimpses of Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle in her.
And he's stressed she's not Catwoman yet. She's, for the villains, it is an origin story. She's on her way to becoming Catwoman.
Right, and you can see those origins, those bits and pieces there, like in the scenes that we see her, interacting with Batman. And the combat, like you said, the way he's punching that guy, and the way he broke his arm, threw him down, and continued punching him to the point where you see the fear on the faces of those other thugs when he's just like, I am vengeance.
Yeah, I think we all thought we were going to hear his take on I'm Batman, but no, it's I am vengeance. I like the voice. It's only one line, we technically need more to truly judge, but it definitely wasn't a bad sounding voice, but it was a good moment. I am vengeance. Yes. Oh my gosh, it looks so good.
That was fantastic. I love the ending shot of him with the raccoon eyes in the cave. I don't know if you caught this. We did hear a bit of Andy Serkis's Alfred.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We did hear a bit of it in audio. And then here's the other thing okay. Everybody is saying that this is the case. I'm still waiting. Me personally, I'm still waiting. If someone knows official word of this, but apparently that one Colin Farrell's Penguin.
Yeah. Yep.
Is that official?
I think it has to be. I definitely.
Okay.
I saw a shot of him from that next to Colin Farrell, and someone's like, just look at the eyes. And if you look at the eyes, you can tell. I am positive that is the Penguin. That is Cobblepot, because you mentioned he doesn't like being called the Penguin.
Right, and he called him Oz. So I'm guessing Reeves called him Oz. So I'm guessing Oz is going to what he's going to be more referred to, which that's even different than Robin Lord Taylor's version of Gotham. Right. Very different. But if that's Colin Farrell, then already hand them the Oscar for Best Makeup.
Yeah, I'll co-sign that.
Seriously, that is insane. If that is actually Colin Farrell, I mean, my goodness, that is crazy. I mean, I said this right after we watched the trailer, and we'll have a reaction video for that as well. But I went ahead, and as hyperbolic as this sounds, I went ahead and I tweeted. I said, we're getting the best Batman movie ever made.
I told my wife last night, if the movie itself is as good as this trailer appears to be, that we might just be getting the best Batman movie ever, and that is high praise. Okay, maybe we're just in the glow of the new shiny, but it's possible. Like the discussion is on the table, and I don't know if people were willing to have that discussion prior to this. But there was one other thing I did want to mention. When we first got our first look at the Batmobile, you demanded something. Do you remember what you demanded?
I demanded atomic batteries to power, turbines to speed. I wanted fire to come out of it, and I got my fire.
You got it. Yes,
it's there. It's big and it's blue and it's awesome and I love it. It's fantastic. I'm so glad that's another reason why I don't buy this 30% crap. You had enough time to do that, you shot enough to do that with the car? It's like, I mean, dude, we got the car in full, like, activation mode.
Mm-hmm.
We got him we got him grappling, like, through it, like up to the rafters. Right? We got, for the little action that we got enough where it's like, how did you, so what, did you just shoot all the cool stuff first? Is that what you did? Like, I don't, and we know there's a bike. We know he's got a bike. We're going to see that later. It's like, this was a hell of a way to go out.
I was convinced, like I had told the Super Civil Servants guys, I was convinced that we would get 30 seconds tops. I thought that was the ceiling of footage. It's like, they haven't had that much time. It was almost 2.5 minutes. I mean, this thing, people are calling it a teaser, and I'm sorry. To me, this was a trailer. I'm like, this was real footage. We got dialogue. We got action. We got to see several of the main cast members. Phenomenal job. Fantastic panel. Fantastic trailer. Could not ask for a better way to end this thing.
Perfect. It was orchestrated so well, and yeah, I'm with you. Full on trailer, and it's, it was just a really awesome bow. It was the cherry on top of what was an incredible day, and still, I'm still blown away by how near perfect this event was for DC. I mean, they had a lot riding on it. There were a lot of anticipations, a lot of expectations for it. And generally speaking, when you have a lot of anticipation and expectations for something like this, it usually doesn't deliver, even if it's still good. This over-delivered. This entire event, DC FanDome, absolutely over-delivered. And what a 180 to see DC now at this point with all of the synergy. All of their social media accounts were heavily active throughout this entire event, and have been more active, have been more engaging with the fans. The Snyder Cut has its own Twitter account now. All of the different, the TNT interns are still tweeting stuff. All the Warner Media accounts are still tweeting stuff, and it's like, it is such a different landscape that we're in. We almost don't know what to do with ourselves as DC fans, because if we're really being honest, I feel like any DC fan, if you have something to complain about, it's because you're looking for something to complain about right now. I really don't feel like there is much for us as DC fans at all to really have a major gripe about. We are getting damn near everything we wanted for the last couple of years.
Somebody is going to write at you, Henry Cavill Superman. We acknowledge it. Somebody's going to tell me all you've wanted is Green Lantern, and they didn't give you anything for Green Lantern. They didn't. But technically, DC FanDome's not over, so there's still hope. Because we got the thing on September 12th?
12th. September 12th, yeah.
But no, the greedy part of me, yes, I wanted to find out that Henry Cavill was Superman. I wanted to find out that there was like 5,000 different Green Lanterns that were going to be happening across every single different medium possible. The realistic part of me was like, I knew what was possible. And I mean, even just the Batman trailer was more than I thought they were going to give us. So it's like, no, they didn't give us everything they could have. People were upset there was no talk about Ben Affleck. Well, that panel, the Flash stuff, was clearly done prior to this. Prior to the Affleck news being not even confirmed with us, but being confirmed with them based on the timeline they gave us of he just signed on. So it's like, let's have a little patience for it. And no, okay, we don't know when the next Superman movie is, but we've had tons of Supermans. We do know the next time we're going to see Henry Cavill Superman, that's going to be in 2021 on HBO Max. We know we're going to, when we see him next. So it's at least we know we will get more Henry Cavill Superman in the future. It's just a question of where. I want more of it too. Ray, I know you want more. I know the rest of the network wants more. But I don't know how you could be upset at this day. If you are, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Luckily, my timeline was super hyped about it. Like, I'm going to boil stuff down to nitpicks. My timeline was super hyped. And from what I'm gathering, that's what other people are seeing too. So, bravo, DC. Well done. Start working on next year's.
I feel like the best way that I can approximate it is DC FanDome opened doors. It didn't close any doors.
Yes.
It opened doors. Okay, so if we're talking about stuff that we haven't gotten yet, like Cavill or Green Lantern or anything further, the doors have been opened for those things to happen. No door has been closed for any of that. Because again, Cavill was part of that Snyder Cut panel. Wasn't like and so was Affleck, right? So it wasn't like oh, that's off the table and they're not communicating. No, they're clearly still communicating, and they're clearly still a part of this whole multiverse of possibilities. So we need to really, and even outside, I didn't mention this, or I mentioned this in our group chat, but Ava DuVernay, one of my dark horse hopes was that we would get some details about New Gods, and even though we didn't, that didn't stop Ava DuVernay from cryptically tweeting something about New Gods with the DC FanDome hashtag. Right. So it was like, this was a hype event for all of us to get excited, and the doors are open, guys. We're not going to get everything at once, and we shouldn't get everything at once. One of the things that Jim Lee pointed out when they were talking in the Multiverse 101 panel, where they're talking about crossovers, was have them be events. Have them be special. Don't have them become regular occurrences. Keep them special to, for special events, and keep their importance high. And I feel like we could have the same attitude with this news. We got a ton of news. The most news we've ever gotten in one day on DC projects, by far. Let's be happy with that. Instead of focusing on what we didn't get, focus on what the gargantuan of news that we actually got. And keep our hope alive for the further news. Remember, the Affleck story was 2 days before FanDome. So the Cavill story could very well be after FanDome. It could happen between now and the second day of FanDome, which is September 12th. It could happen after that. We could hear, what movies he's going to be in or whether he's going to get a solo. I could hear my information about New Gods. Brent could get his confirmation of Green Lantern somewhere. All of that is on the table, guys, and it could happen at any moment. That is the beauty of this. That is the position that we are in. That is why we really need to enjoy this, because we couldn't have said this a year ago. A year ago, DC was not in this position. Arguably, they were not in this position until Ezra Miller showed up on The Flash in Crisis on Infinite Earths. We were not in this position until that happened. Now that has happened, all bets are off. And everything is on the table, and everybody is on the same page as far as Warner Media and DC Comics is concerned. We need to be happy about nothing else. If we're happy about nothing else, be happy about that. Bar none, for sure. Fantastic.
Completely co-sign everything you just said. So let's go ahead and leave it there. Go ahead and send us in your feedback. You can email us at borderlessfans@gmail.com.
And we are also on Twitter. I'm at the Flightcast.
I'm at Brent Prime. The show is at borderlessfans.
And as always, you can find us and the other shows in our network at squadcastmedia.com.
See you later.
Take care, guys. Stay safe.